Welcome back. Well, speaking of pretexts to push through legislation that's ultimately not good for the country or for America, there's a new Fox piece that says this: a web of dark money tied to Obama. Democrats fuels green opposition to crucial Trump energy plan. So an American energy leader is warning that several progressive, quote-unquote, green environmental groups opposing President Donald Trump's nuclear energy plans are linked to a web of dark money groups with ties to former President Barack Obama and other Democrats. So Jason Isaac, CEO of the American Energy Institute, warned that while claiming to stand for the planet, these groups have prioritized ideology over innovation and are driven by green activists and groups deeply tied to the Democrat Party. So Jason Isaac joins me now. And what exactly is going on here?
Well, you've got these left-wing groups that are really have this cult-like fascination with decarbonization. And so you would think that if that was the case, that they wanted the best source of energy that is carbon-free, that would be nuclear energy. It essentially solves their problem, and their hypocrisy in this area and their opposition to expanding our nuclear fleet in this country shows that this is not anything to do about the environment. I don't think that CO2 has any impact on the climate. I live a high-carbon lifestyle. I think the rest of the world should too. It's where you have economic prosperity and environmental leadership. Those things are not possible without the other. And it's just absolutely absurd, but it shows their complete hypocrisy that this solves their so-called problem. It's all about control. It has nothing to do with the environment or the climate. So this is what their motives are, to drive energy more expensive so we have less access to it.
Wow. And so when you say that this opposition isn't about environmental concerns, and that's basically the pretext, it's about political control of America's energy future, what is the goal there? I mean, what are they attempting to control? Is it just, I mean, obviously the left is, own nothing and be happy. And we see their worldview in that, but specifically related to energy policy.
You would think it's just to make our lives uncomfortable. I mean, these are the same people that advocated for removing gas stoves in our homes, that have advocated for removing gas furnaces from office buildings to make everything electric. And then they've made our electricity less affordable and more unreliable with these intermittent weather-dependent systems, wind and solar. I really don't know what their motives is. I think they're very Malthusian. I think they're anti-human. I think they think there's too many of us on this planet. I don't think there's enough. There's plenty to go around. We need to go forward and prosper. But that's just not their motive whatsoever. I think it's just to appease left-wing donors. We've seen a lot of Chinese influence within some of these organizations, and we know China is spreading the fear and climate alarmism and eco-anxiety here in the United States, driving us down this path away from affordable, reliable energy dependent on Chinese-dependent materials, namely solar. And it's to the Chinese benefit. You look at this group called Energy Foundation China, which spun off an organization called U.S. Energy Foundation. It's like they dropped the China at the end of their name and added U.S. at the beginning to sound more American, but they're based in San Francisco with a majority of their employees in Beijing. So they're driving the narrative by funding millions of dollars into nonprofits, think tanks, and institutions of higher education, trying to drive a narrative that leads to a massive transition of power and economic prosperity away from the United States and to China.
And so you describe a web of dark money that's tied to Obama and Democrat donors that are influencing these green advocacy groups. How exactly do you see these connections forming and operating?
Well, I talk about Energy Foundation China and how there are millions of dollars going into these organizations. There are other groups like Ceres in Boston, which is headed by a former Obama administration official, Mindy Lubber. There's the Arabella Network, which just in the last couple of days, the National Academy of Sciences came out and said that they're going to investigate this report that the Secretary of Energy released about climate that does what it's supposed to do and says that man doesn't have that much of an impact on the climate. We're actually world leaders in environmental protection in this country. But it's interesting because during COVID, the National Academies of Science refused to investigate the origins of COVID because they didn't have a request from the federal government. But now their dark money connections are going to investigate this climate report and try to debunk it, which is going to be impossible. So there's been no request from the federal government for them to do that. They're just controlled by left-wing organizations, and the person that's going to be leading this effort within Arabella or is connected to the Arabella dark money network of the Democrat machine.
Wow. And dark money, by definition, lacks transparency. And I'm speaking with Jason Isaac, who is the CEO of the American Energy Institute. And so what tools or legislative, regulatory, or otherwise would we need to expose these true sources? I mean, your group is doing a great job. I mean, you just published this expose on the Obama era officials. But what additional tools do we need to basically expose this and their true agenda?
Well, we need to see if there's foreign influence, because if there is foreign influence, and we need to confirm the foreign influence and make sure that these people are registering as foreign advocates, because that's a requirement in law. And so I'm grateful that Senator Ted Cruz from Texas held a hearing a few weeks ago about groups like the Environmental Law Institute, who has a climate judiciary project where since 2018, they have been going around and tainting judges around the United States with these lavish junkets and then training them on so-called questionable, debatable, highly debatable so-called climate science. I mean, it's completely fictitious information that they're sharing with these judges, trying to drive a result before cases even make it before their courts. Fortunately, even some Democrat-appointed judges have dismissed these cases this year. I think 5 or 6 cases have been dismissed on their merits where cities and other municipalities are suing energy companies. So I think exposing it. And just last week, 23 state attorneys general sent a letter to the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. It was led by Montana's Attorney General Knudsen, who sent a letter exposing how the EPA is giving grants to groups like the Environmental Law Institute that does the Climate Judiciary Project. So a lot of it is dark money, but some of it's actually very transparent. We found out through the DOJ process, and now we're finding out that EPA is giving grants. So they're trying to get those grants pulled back. In 2023, the Environmental Law Institute, 13% of their budget came from taxpayers, and they're using that money against the best interests of taxpayers, driving up the cost of energy.
Wow. And, as someone who's obviously a conservative voter, supported this administration against, the ridiculous, thankfully, we don't, have a Kamala Harris administration, but supported all of the mandate and the agenda that the voters overwhelmingly gave to President Trump. When you hear things like that the EPA is still giving these grants under someone like a Lee Zeldin, who obviously wouldn't have just initially approved those things, and that it's still going on even under the Trump administration. And it's like somehow we have to, find the breadcrumbs and uncover, all of this ridiculous spending. It's really infuriating to think that that's still going on, and that the deep state, however we characterize that, but basically the people in Washington, they don't care who's in office. They'll just continue to do all that. It doesn't stop. And so with the EPA, hopefully they'll draw back some of these grants, but it seems like there should be more of a reset of some of these things when a new administration comes in, instead of just waiting for somebody to discover something like this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Major ruling out of a court yesterday that says that the administrator has the ability to cancel some of these grants. You talk about billions of dollars of grants that were given out in the waning days of the Biden administration, like $2 billion to a Stacey Abrams group that had raised $100 before this, and then we're going to give her $2 billion to oversee of our tax dollars so that she can hand out to other Democrat candidates. I don't think so. A federal judge ruled and agreed with that, and so I think now Zeldin has the authority and can cancel some of these grants to organizations that aren't qualified, that aren't properly using taxpayer dollars. It's going to be billions of dollars of savings and hopefully some debt reduction in the federal budget. So this is, I think, great news, great victories. The Department of Energy has been doing the same thing, pulling back billions of dollars in so-called green energy. It's not green, it's really red with China colors. And so pulling back those billions of dollars that have done nothing but make energy more expensive in this country. So the energy dominance agenda within the Trump administration is alive and well, and Americans are going to benefit from that, as we've seen Labor Day, lowest gas prices at the pump since the last Trump administration. So we're moving in the right direction. We've got a lot of work to do to wane out the deep state and to ensure that we have affordable and reliable electricity, because those costs have risen and they continue to rise because of political agendas pushed by utilities and left-leaning states like California.
And I'm speaking with Jason Isaac, who is the CEO of the American Energy Institute. And in just the last 2 minutes, let's talk about the Trump administration energy plan, because President Trump issued executive orders in May that were focused on triggering a nuclear renaissance and making nuclear a centerpiece of America's energy security strategy. What do these orders actually do?
That's to reduce the regulatory burdens and to investigate what those burdens are. To give you an example, the last nuclear power plant was expanded in Tennessee. It was the Vogtle power plant. It cost $35 billion to build 2.5 gigawatts of continuously available electric generation. The only thing that can do that besides nuclear, coal, and natural gas. And to build the equivalent amount of electricity and natural gas is $2 billion. So $2 billion or $35 billion. We've got to reduce the regulatory burdens that are driving up the cost of nuclear, because nuclear is the safest, most densest form of electric generation on the planet, and we need a lot more of it. And other countries that are competing with us have been expanding their nuclear fleet. They've been expanding their coal fleet. China, for example, builds 2 coal-fired power plants every single week. I wish they would use the same pollution control technology that we do that's made us world leaders in clean air in this country. They don't care about environmental protection. They don't care about human rights, as we've seen. So that's what the president's executive order is about, is finding and removing and eliminating these regulatory hurdles that do nothing but drive up the cost of construction to expand our nuclear fleet here in the United States.
Wow. And so for our listeners who want to stay informed on this or the developments in Washington or even globally, what should we be paying closest attention to in the next few months, and how can we best hold policymakers accountable for this when there is some transparency, but not enough, in my opinion?
Yeah, and I think Secretary Wright is probably one of the best people in the administration on energy. He's the first person with actual energy experience, having studied nuclear at MIT and then going on to lead an oil and gas hydraulic fracturing company in Denver called Liberty Energy. He's really, I think, our best messenger in the administration on this. So I would give Secretary Wright a follow on X and stay in contact with what he's working on. And then from our local levels, don't let politicians at the local levels, like we're seeing done around the country, give crazy tax abatements for foreign dependent energy sources like wind, solar, and these battery energy storage systems that are called BESS. We certainly don't need to be giving away tax dollars and tax advantages to these things that just make electricity more expensive. And we need to level the market. I represent energy companies around the country, oil, gas, coal, nuclear, that completely reject political agendas and want to eliminate subsidies across the board. Subsidies for carbon capture, subsidies for wind and solar electric generation. We've got to completely eliminate those if we're going to continue with this energy dominance agenda, and it's going to be successful. The only way it's successful is by eliminating the subsidies, and that's one thing that we need to do.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jason Isaac. And you can also follow him on X at Isaac4Energy. I'd encourage you to do that as well. And we need to be paying attention to these issues because while, so much of the conversation is a lot, and it should be about, social issues, some of these other things that we're paying a lot of attention to regularly, obviously pro-life and issues of the family. These are things also that absolutely impact us. They impact our rights, how our government is shaping policy, and how we have foreign influence in our country that we really shouldn't have. So I really appreciate Jason Isaac for calling attention to this, and we'll be right back with more here on Jenna Ellis in the Morning.